I just put together a short video on the top 9 red flags when it comes to hiring VAs in the Philippines. Some are obvious and some aren't. And I bet you've seen some of these, but I'll show you how to manage it. Now let's jump in. Okay, now the last thing I'm going to walk you through here are some of the red flags. All right. So the first one is asking to buy equipment for them. You do not want to be that person that buys them a brand new MacBook and next thing you know, they ghosted you, right? So we mentioned in our independent contractor handbook that that's part of the policy. You must have your own equipment. We will never buy you equipment. Number 2 is some sort of sob story. Now there's personal issues, a family member dies, some sort of emergency, power outage. Like if you've worked with outsourcing long enough, you've heard it all, right? And, recently I was talking to my head of HR and I was asking her, why is it so common that it's always like the family emergency, right? The father-in-law dies and I got to immediately quit, etc. And an important thing I learned there was it's because it's their way out to not have to render, right? If you really want them to render a 2-week notice or 30-day notice, it's something that you can't really rebuttal. And then it's immediate. I have to go because of this emergency, right? So the way we get ahead of this, again, is being upfront with the independent contractor handbook, talking about, hey, if any of these things happen, we need to provide some sort of proof, right? That way it's not awkward, in the moment, then you're asking them for evidence if you're suspicious, but it's just every incident needs some sort of proof. Number 3 is you start to see productivity dropping or delays. Now, what you're looking for here is inconsistencies. If the person has been, typically a good performer, now their productivity starts to drop or there's delays, like maybe they're getting distracted, maybe they're not interested in the work, or maybe they found multiple jobs and their focus is no longer with you. So you just want to look for inconsistencies there. Now, the 4th thing is constantly asking for raises. So from my personal experience, people that do this typically are not planning to stay here very long. They're job jumpers and they just keep wanting to trade up, right? Which is fine for them, but those aren't necessarily the people you want. Remember earlier I mentioned you want to focus on long-term relationships. The next thing is asking for payment advances due to some sort of sob story or other reason. Now, of course, if something crazy happens, it's true, all of that, like we're happy to help our team members. But this is, again, another one of those red flags where somebody might get a payment advance and just leave. So just be careful. You got to exercise judgment. Just be aware of that. The next thing is about changing payment terms. Now, we pay our team every 2 weeks. The issue is if people are constantly changing payment terms, now they want it weekly, or now they're asking for the payment terms to be shortened, right? The problem is if you make an exception for one person, now you start to have inconsistencies in a team. So just don't ever break that. Stick to your payment terms. Now, the next thing is video, audio, or internet connection issues. Now, of course, if they already have that in the beginning during the interview, we just don't bring them on. Because if they have issues with connections or audio, video, like from the beginning, it's usually not going to get better. But what you want to look for here is somebody who all of that was working fine and now suddenly they're having all these issues. Because what we've noticed in the past is oftentimes, maybe the person isn't video on anymore in the meeting because they're not where they're supposed to be, or they're having internet connection issues because they're not where they're supposed to be. And so you need to pay attention to inconsistencies there. Now, the next thing is multiple social media profiles on Facebook, LinkedIn, et cetera. So this person is either, burning a lot of employers. So they're creating new identities and they're shifting from one hustle to another. Or maybe they're trying to position themselves as an expert for multiple roles, right? So somebody may be applying for an SEO role. Now they have a LinkedIn profile that's like all this SEO experience. And someone may be the same person may be applying for a customer service role and they have a LinkedIn profile with all experience related to that. So you just want to kind of check and verify that. If someone has multiple profiles, that's usually a red flag. Now, the last thing is watching out for agencies posing as individual. That seems to happen more and more often, particularly in platforms such as Upwork.